Welcome to the tutorial, guys, to the balanced multi-point method for true scaling a Mark IV Space Marine, entirely made from the GW plastic kit. For this, we're gonna cut the leg, as you guys can observe. We're gonna cut the leg so we can get a better pose. When you cut the leg, make sure that you don't cut any part of the armor and the back part of the model. Be careful with this. We apply glue to both parts of the model so we can get a better grip, better seal in the model. And then just juggle the part till you have the desired pose that you want in your model. And it's looking good so far. I'm gonna put one of the legs higher in the base. And for this, I'm gonna use a piece of sprue, and I'm gonna use a piece of plastic card for the other leg. And as you guys can see, and we'll be able to see, we have achieved a very different pose with this few changes that we have made into the model. As you can see right now, we have a different pose, which is gonna give us a very different looking model. Don't forget, guys, this part of the building is very important because it will depend, everything else will depend on this part. Whatever you build on top will depend on how you did the legs. Now we're gonna attach the model to the base, and we're gonna add a little bit of plastic card under the sprue and one of the legs so we can achieve a little bit more of different pose, improve the pose that we already are building in this model. We're going to apply glue to both parts of the model to make sure that the glue is very strong and that we have a very well attached model to the base. Pay close attention. Now we're gonna put it on top of the base, and so far it's looking good. For this Mark IV Space Marine, my opinion is that 1.5 millimeters is a good size for the spacer that we're gonna add in the middle of section of the model. Specifically for this Mark IV, because it varies from model to model, but for this Mark IV, in my opinion, 1.5 millimeters is good enough. We're also gonna use oval shape file in order to help us attach the part that is going to be going on top of the legs. Pay close attention. I like to put also a mark on the part that's going to be attached to the torso, the upper part, and that way you don't make a mistake. Carefully file the part that's going to be touching and the upper part of the legs with the file. The work we do with the file help us to make sure that the spacer conforms better to the shape of the oval shape that we have on the top part of the legs. And now we're gonna be adding some glue on both parts, the leg and also in the spacer. Make sure the spacer is very well attached to the legs. Now I'm gonna attach some glue to the inner part of the spacer and fill up the gap that is between the spacer and the leg. And this way we're gonna seal both pieces as one. For this part, I'm using my small detail jar that I have full of glue. You can see one of the previous videos that I have done, especially on the glue and how I use it. For the next part, we're gonna be using the glue in order to seal the spacer to the legs from the outside. We do this around the model. Just make sure that you don't cover any detail, especially in front of the model. And so far we have our model looking good. As you guys can observe, the glue will seal the model in a very, very good way. For the next part, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a little bit of glue in both parts. So we're going to use it on top of the spacer and also on the bottom part of the torso. We're going to make sure that we put a good amount of glue And also we're gonna fill the inner part of the torso with the glue, and this to make sure that the model seals from inside. We're gonna put a good amount of glue and also add glue on both sides, the torso and also the spacer. This to make sure that the model is very well attached. And this is the way our model is looking. And as you guys can observe, the proportions have become, in my opinion, better and more realistic. And from this space, we're gonna start adding the rest of the model. Using the glue now, we're gonna seal both parts, the upper part and the bottom part of the model, in this way fusing the model as one. We're gonna do this all around the model, just making sure that we use our small detail brush with glue for this project, for this part of the building process. Also make sure that in the front part of the model you don't cover any details. For the next part, guys, we're gonna be adding, the accessories, which is a grenade, a pistol. We're gonna be adding some pouches also into the hips, and this also is gonna help us not only embellish the model to make it look good, but also to seal both parts. So we have a very well attached model, very solid figure. And when it comes to the sword or the long knife this model has, I have cut the handle because when I notice or when I plan the handle to be under the arm, to be honest, the handle of the sword is gonna just get in the way and just not help us with achieving a better pose. So in many cases, I cut the handle of this swords or long knives. When it comes to placing the arms, make sure that you put the arms, I would say maybe a millimeter higher than would normally. And this is to balance the different changes that we make in different points in the model. So place the arms, I will say maybe a millimeter higher, just to balance the model better. Now we're gonna place the weapon, the rifle, in the hands of the Space Marine. And we're gonna place also the shoulder pads, one in each side of the model. I have decided to place the studded shoulder pad on the right arm of the Space Marine in this case. After we finish placing both shoulder pads, the next step is going to be adding the head in the Space Marine. And I'm going to be adding the head of the Space Marine a millimeter higher, just the same way to compensate and balance the model more, kind of like responding to the different changes that we have make in the model. And so we're gonna be adding the head, I will say maybe a millimeter. You can use a small piece of plastic card for this, but you can also use a little very tiny small ball of green stuff. If you're gonna be using the spacer, the plastic card, we're gonna be using that with the plastic glue that we have, you see right now. And in case you're going to be using the green stuff, a little ball, in that case you're going to be using a super glue for that. Make sure you have the desired angle when it comes to the head, which is very important because it adds a lot of character into the model. And the next step is going to be adding the backpack of the model. After this, we're gonna be doing the base, and for that we're gonna be attaching different parts of sprues. And in this case, I'm gonna be adding a small piece of plastic card tubing, just to give us the sense of maybe like terrain or a battlefield, broken tubes, or broken pieces of metal in the ground. And make sure you attach this either with glue, or you can even use super glue for this. And once you're done with this, we're gonna be using the glue to seal the parts and make sure that they're very well bonded into the base. Next, we're gonna be adding some terrain, and in this case some sand. We're gonna be placing the sand on top of the glue. In this case, we gotta be very careful not to place any glue in any part of the model, because once you do this, it will become very sticky and anything will attach to it. So very carefully we add the sand. Besides the sand, you can also add some more things. Like in this case, I want to add a piece of a skull, just to give the green dark, more greeny dark, I guess you can say, look. I always like my models to be walking in the middle of the battlefield. So in this case, we're going to be placing a small skull in the base. Don't forget to like the video and share, and also ring the bell for more content. And if you like to support the channel, we have our Patreon, in which you can support the channel so we can keep creating and making this type of content. This is the way the model looks. We have based the model and also dry brush the model, and this is our Space Marine Mark IV model. I'm very happy with the results, and what we're going to be doing right now is comparing the true scale model that we have made today with some other models. Like in this case, we are comparing him with a Mark III Space Marine that you guys can see right now. It's not completed, but for purposes of comparison, I think it will be good enough. We have added 3.5 millimeters to the Mark IV model that you see right now. So actually, if you would have compared this model with a regular Mark IV, the size increase will be around 3.5 millimeters. The next comparison is going to be with Primaris Space Marine, completely from the GW plastic kit. Primaris Space Marine that you see right now. This is how he fares with the Mark IV true scale Space Marine that we have built today. You guys can see the size difference, and I think I'm very happy with the pose. I'm very happy with the results that we have achieved today. Another thing that we added, I don't know if you guys can see, in one of the shoulder pads of the Mark IV Space Marine that we did today, I have added a few battle damage that you guys can observe right now in the shoulder pad. Don't forget that the balanced multi-point method for converting and true scaling Space Marines is actually different points in the model, not only chopping the legs or cutting one part in the model. So it's a combination of different things that you're going to do in the model, and you're going to try to balance those different things to create a better anatomical looking model, a better pose too. I'm going to repeat one more time. The spacer that we used today, it was 8 millimeters wide by 1.5 millimeters. Okay guys, this has been the video for the tutorial. Subscribe, share the channel, and we're gonna see each other in the next video. Bye bye.